Happy Tea Elixir. This super herb recipe begins with a tea, and it's important that we get clear on how to make these teas. I get asked that question all the time. I dug back into the research by Kuchkoff, who was the first guy to state that cooking food is actually causing us to produce white blood cells. Before his time in the 1930s, it was believed that any time you ate food, you would have a leukocytosis reaction, or white blood cells would flood into your blood to meet the food and greet the food or digest the food or something. And there was a whole theory that the white blood cells were involved in digestion, which to some degree they are. However, Kuchkoff found out that raw food does not cause leukocytosis. He also found out some other interesting things. He found out that if you are going to heat water, there's a certain critical temperature. It's about 181 to 191 degrees Fahrenheit. That if you go above that temperature, let's say you boil the water at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and then cool the water back down and drink it, like you would if you're making a tea, for example, boiling the tea, what can happen is you're going to have a leukocytosis to the drink that you're drinking. So you made your tea, you drink it, you're having a reaction to it. If you don't boil the water, if you just steep the tea, for example, keep it maybe 75% of the distance to boiling, so if it's in centigrade, below 75 degrees centigrade or below 170 degrees Fahrenheit, what you'll find then is that you don't get a reaction, a leukocytosis white blood cell reaction, which is essentially, in my opinion, it's crying wolf on your immune system. That's what leukocytosis really is when you're eating all this food that's been fried and there's no raw food involved and all the water's been boiled, is you're just constantly crying wolf on your immune system. Now here's an interesting idea. Is one of the reasons why we are into super herbs, and one of the reasons why the super herbs play such a critical role, is because when you come off of all of that stuff, all the fried food, the bread, the this, the that, and all the stuff that's causing leukocytosis, your body stops getting that cry wolf on the immune system. So usually with every meal, our immune system was activated every day, all day long. And then all of a sudden it stops and everything calms down and your whole body realizes, hey, there's not an alarm going off. There's no boy crying wolf anymore. This can actually have a very positive effect in that you start to conserve resources. You're not leaking Jing by a constant white blood cell reaction. However, the flip side of it is it can lull your immune system to sleep. That's why we keep the super herb aspect of this entire recipe idea there. Because we got to get these foods coming in. We got to get the superfoods coming in, and we've got to get the super herbs coming in so our immune system is at the ready. It's ready for action at any time instead of just being completely lulled to sleep. And I learned this over many, many years in the raw food field, because people would be doing lots of raw food and then all of a sudden they get hit by something really strong that their kid would bring home from school, a real strong virus, a flu, and they would just get knocked completely out. And they shouldn't be, and you would think, well, isn't the raw food providing enough immunological material? And the answer is no, it is not. The super herbs provide it, and that's why we go to the tonic herbs to complete the picture, make sure that our immune system is activated and that we don't get sick in a situation like that. Now what I do is I fill this up with water, spring water of course. I put all my herbs in, and in our case for our Happy Tea Elixir today, it's going to be reishi, it's going to be astragalus, it's going to be hoshu wu, goji berry, schizandra, vanilla. That's the kind of tea that this is. And I would put all of those ingredients right in here. So I fill it up with cold water, cold spring water, put all those things in there, the hoshu wu, the astragalus, little chunk of reishi if I can get the fresh reishi. If I can't, then I'll use a little bit of the reishi mycelium biomass, throw that in there, which is the reishi powder. Like this is chaga powder, so you could throw that in if you don't have wild chaga, or if you don't have wild reishi, you use reishi powder. And I throw a little bit of vanilla in there, like a piece of a vanilla bean, and then I'm ready to roll, right? I've got it all in there, I seal that up, and that goes on the burner, or in my house, it's a wood burning stove, and I just wait until it's getting to that point, and I keep moving it to the cooler part of the stove, because my stove is a big wood burning stove, and one side's really hot, and one side's cool, so I can modulate the temperature, and I'm sure not to boil, because I've gone through so much trouble to get the spring water, anyway that I don't want to boil it, so I steep it, preferably for 45 minutes. If you can do that at home, great. If you have a gas burner or electric burner at home, just steep it so you're gently heating it up. Once it gets to a certain temperature, then maybe turn it off or move it over to another burner that's completely off and let it sit there so that you get that real nice temperature that you want for the situation. If it's winter, you might want the heat for that particular situation. If it's summer, you may want to take that thing off, pour it into a mason jar, put it in the refrigerator, and do it completely cold, which is really wonderful. I like to do that as well. So that's a little bit about tea making. Avoid boiling if you can. The next question, of course, is, well, I need to boil it to get all that stuff out of the roots, and the answer is no, you don't. You don't need to boil it to get all the stuff out of the roots or the mushrooms. You'll get plenty out just by hot water extraction alone. So let's put that aside. Okay, we're going to actually put together a happy tea elixir here, which is going to decorate this wonderful tea with all those great Chinese herbs in it: reishi, astragalus, hoshu wu, schizandra, goji, and of course vanilla, which isn't Chinese, comes from the jungles of Central America, one of the great orchids of the world. But we love the taste of vanilla, so we dance around that in the drink. But we're going to decorate this with these other aspects of our ingredients. This is coconut oil, that's going to go in. And we've got our shaga, right? This is the happy stuff. This is the king of mushrooms. That's shaga mycelium biomass. And that's grown in California, certified organic, certified kosher, all the goodies. So we got that. We've got over here some almond butter. That's making this a meal. This is going to make this a meal. Once you have the almond butter in there, you've enriched the drink to such a degree where you've got the oils, you've got the protein, you've got calories. So we're going to get that in there. Sometimes the almond butter gets a little sticky, but here it comes. Boom. Gotta love almond butter. I grew up on peanut butter. So when I discovered almond butter, I couldn't believe it. I thought, how did this escape my life? I'm very envious of kids who get to grow up on almond butter instead of peanut butter, especially if you can put it in a formula like this, which this formula is great for all ages, any situation. So you just pick and choose. You've got family over for a big holiday, great drink to make a big gallon of this stuff and then fire it out there and see what happens. We've got some pine pollen, which has the hormone precursors in it. Pine trees have been around for hundreds of millions of years according to conventional science. I don't necessarily believe those timelines, but they've been around definitely since the time of the dinosaurs. And the thing about pine is they say they didn't produce flowers. The flowering plants came later. That's completely ridiculous. Pine trees produce flowers, those little fuzzy little cone type things that pine trees produce. And if you shake them at the right time of the season, they produce a little dust that comes out. That's the pine pollen. And we're going to put that right in as well. That's one of the most primordial substances on Earth. It's like essence. That's that hormonal essence that we're looking for. And it's got great flavor as well. We've got hoshu wu. So we'll get the hoshu wu in. This is prepared hoshu wu. You can see by the color that it's brown. I got a bunch on my finger. Let's taste that. Strong stuff, good stuff. Great additive to any beverage. Hoshu wu, that Jing restorative power, is one of the best there is. Okay, we're going to get that out. Hoshu wu works on the kidney and adrenal. And actually, the thing about hoshu wu in this drink, the happy tea elixir, is that it makes you happy. It's known that hoshu wu makes you happy. It kind of has an ecstatic property to it, and that's why we include it. We're going to use a little bit of sea salt to taste, just, if we want to be a little bit. Well, we'll probably do the whole thing. Sea salt bottoms out all these herbs, brings them all together, helps to drive them into the kidney channel. Now, we've got to select a sweetener. Honey is always my favorite because it's so happy. It's like the honeymoon, of course. And when you're dealing with super herbs, honey is the way that's always been done. They used to roll up these super herbs in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine into little balls or make a little concoction like this. In Ayurveda, it was called Chivan Prash, where they take all the herbs and just throw it in honey. In Chinese medicine, it was called a super pill, where they just roll up all these herbs in honey. So we're going to have the herbs in the honey just by adding a good tablespoon in there. That's the Noni Land honey from our farm. Gotta love Noni Land. The black gold honey. And the black color is indicating that mineral density, which again helps to drive into the kidney channel. We could use clear agave. I get questions all the time about which agave is the right agave. Well, if it doesn't look like that, It's been cooked, broiled, boiled, and pretty much lost most of its health-giving qualities. This has been cooked to some degree, but it's the least processed of the agave products, and it's clear. It's completely clear. And we'll just put a little bit of that in here for fun. It's got great flavor. In fact, I haven't had this in a while, so I'm just going to have a little bit of a taste. It's amazing. So we got a little bit of agave. Agave comes out of the deserts of America, and it is one of the most interesting food plants in American prehistory. Okay, now, got our base in, we got our liquid, here comes the tea. Happy Tea Elixir coming right up. Launch it on our NutriBullet, let's see what happens. It's important to have happy food. Happiness is important. That's got quite a color. Almost a silvery color. Delicious flavor, extraordinary. Wow, I'm just feeling that would be great on a Christmas Eve. That's the Happy Tea Elixir, wishing you the happiest day ever.